And let's start off with a question from Harry. And Harry says, I'm struggling with what I believe to be a shoulder impingement. I'm not going to give any medical advice. In fact, I'm just going to tell you what I have been told by smarter people than me. Yeah, that's not fair. I'm pretty smart, but medical advice in this situation isn't my lane. That's a better way to say it. Do you have any advice on how to get around this? I stopped benching for a good few weeks, and I haven't benched in this millennium. So the downside of bench pressing, sorry, Harry, to jump off of this, bench pressing has great value until it doesn't. I'm a fan of the incline bench press. As a child, I really started doing those a lot. I saved every nickel, literally dime and quarter I had for over a year to buy a Sears Roebuck adjustable incline bench. And I found even then that the incline was better on my shoulders. Military presses, single and double kettlebell presses, no shoulder issues. Bench press, boom, right there. That spot Dick Nutmeyer used to press when you were sore from benching. Ouch, still hurts. And it felt great. When I resumed, I did a few weeks of easy strength style work before gradually going back to challenging sets of singles or triples. This has done me no favors, and I went back to square one. Okay, now I'm going to answer this question a couple times, but I want you to at least hear yourself. Your shoulder got better when you stopped benching. Your shoulder felt good when you were doing easy strength, and then you went back to what hurt it in the first place, and you got hurt again. In logic courses in college, we actually used examples like this. It's not always the best method of learning things. Today, having had a further 2 weeks of not benching, I ran through your 1 lift a day workout pattern for bench with light weights, and I can still feel the sensation in the shoulder, so won't be pushing it hard for the foreseeable future. Do you think doing some corrective exercises are the answer, or complete rest? Okay, folks, raise your hand if you have shoulder problems. Ouch. It's a joke I use all the time at workshops. I think it's funny. No one else does. See, when I say raise your hand if you have a bad shoulder. That's funny. So if you didn't get the joke, please email me here at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com and I'll explain it. So in my world, shoulder injuries are common. I work with throwers. I work with, like in your case, Harry, people who've done a lot of bench presses. I also have worked with people who are, certifiably idiotic. They've hurt their shoulders by trying to win some kind of idiotic contest in the gym that means nothing to anybody. And they do something that's a little rough on the shoulder. Shoulder Health 101, kind of like hip health. In Chinese medicine, the shoulders and the hips are called the 4 knots, K-N-O-T-S. It's like your shoelaces. You want them tight enough to keep the shoe lace and the shoe tight, but loose enough to be able to get them off so you can take the shoe off. Shoulders and hips are the same way. You want them tight enough so that when you throw something, you hit somebody, everything stays together, but loose enough so you have a full range of motion. And with this chair here, obviously, I don't. So let's go at this in 2 ways. First, push-ups and bench press seem to really be an issue with a lot of people and shoulder health. Am I saying not do them? Well, no, I didn't say that. But if you're like me, and I used to bench press 5 to 8 times a week, and then throw the discus, and then throw baseballs and throw other things. Oh, my shoulder hurts. I could barely touch my hair the first couple of months of junior college when I was taught the javelin with a very poor technical model. And between all the bench pressing and all the other stuff, my shoulder barely held on. So lesson number 1 is try to avoid things that hurt it. And well, here's the deal. Push-ups and bench press seem over time with a lot of reps and sets, a lot of volume, seem to hurt some people's shoulders. Is the bench press or the push-up bad? No, not even a little bit. Having said that, if if every time there's a day that ends in the word day, or the joke, any day of the week that ends with a Y, if you're doing push-ups or bench press every single day of the week, things are going to pop up. And now it could be something like structural, or it could be when you get so much so much work into a certain place that you just start to rub things raw or get inflammation, and then you train on top of the inflammation, you might have yourself a little injury. So first off, I would say, especially reading your thing, Harry, with your bench press work, go back to easy strength, go back to moderation. Maybe it's 1 day a week like you're doing with 1 lift a day, but you have to moderate it somehow, my friend. Number 2 is then for basic rehab, the best thing I know is simply hanging. When I got that book called The Kauai Study, that shoulder surgeon in Hawaii, what was it? 92 out of 93 people who were going to get shoulder surgery did not need it after the hanging protocol. The one woman dropped out, and that's the 93rd. All they did was hang. Now, here's the thing. When I say something like just hang from a bar, somebody's going to ask me like 5 more additional questions, because it seems impossible sometimes for people to think for themselves. But I just hang. Most of the time, I just hang in my home gym, because the pull-up bar is too low for me with my height and my arm length. I hang with my knees tucked up to my chest. My knees are up, tucked to my chest. Happens in the first few seconds, and it just slowly falls away. But just hanging seems to be miraculous for some people. If you have monkey bars, for some people, monkey bars can be very helpful. When I go see my DPT, who's marvelous, Mike is amazing. He'll show me sometimes some of these other movements and stuff. But anytime you're doing rehab work, and part of what you want to think to yourself is, well, let's go back to see if we can get ourselves in a place to not have to do rehab work anymore. Let's look at better exercise choices, better look at volume, that's the reps and sets, better look at loading. And when you do that, sometimes you come to these conclusions like I have, that maybe this exercise should be substituted for this one. Even though this rep and set scheme works for you, Harry, it doesn't work for me. It can be that simple. There are some moves, and if you're on the site, go to the book. It's in the download section. It's Tim Anderson's original strength book. And he has some very simple little easy movements. He gave me an exercise. It's basically the child's pose on the ground, but then you add rocking into it for shoulder health. So you got to imagine my feet and knees are both on the ground. My hands are reached out. I like to make a little triangle. And then I just pump and rock. So I'm rocking my hips, which makes them feel good. And I'm pumping my shoulders, which makes them feel good. And I try to do that. A couple of years back, I did that between every set of Olympic lifting. Now I just tossed it in because I'm doing the hanging also. Well, every time I work with people whose shoulders are bothering them, they usually have a pretty good history of this thing showing up and then showing up and then showing up. Like you did, you rest, you fix it, and then you go right back and do the things you did before. I believe in some places they call that the definition of insanity. But I'm not faulting you, Harry. I'm just saying that maybe I want you to think about your exercise selection, think about your long-term goals, and let's just see if you can come up with a few ideas. And if you just love the bench and you're going to bench, maybe stick with the one lift a day. So bench once a week, and really take your time getting up there and the volume, reps and sets, and the load. You may have to check your ego at the door until this gets better. If you also toss in the hanging and maybe see a good, I think a few of the ways you spelled things, it seems like you're from Europe. I think they're called physios there. Maybe see a good physio. There might be a few simple exercises that'll give you relief and maybe even make it so that you can go back to your benching before the shoulder issues. That would be best. So, very simply, if you're having issues with any part of your body caused by training, first look at the exercise selection, then look at the volume, and then look at the load. I hope that helps. That's a good question, Harry.